Hey there, it's Michelle with Brilliant Quest, and I want to ask you a question. Why is purpose so painful? Now, if you've not asked this question, maybe you should, because one of the most painful things when you start realizing what it is going to be understanding your purpose. Now, let me just deal with this on the real. Purpose is not necessarily static. You know how people say, "Oh, I want to know what my purpose is in life." A better question should be, "I want to know what my purpose is for this season." And so let me bring this back a little bit and deal with something that I'm going to devote an entire video to. But for the sake of setting this up so that you can start moving past the painful part of purpose, let's start with this: passion versus purpose. And what do I mean by passion versus purpose? One of the biggest things that they fooled us with was to tell us when it comes to having gainful employment, livelihood, purpose is to what? You guessed it, follow your passion. And are they wrong? No and yes. And what I mean by that is, and y'all, I made some notes so I can make sure I give you the real deal and get to the point. So with passion, passion is kind of like the training ground to get you to be able to fulfill your purpose. And so passions can come in a myriad of ways. They can be the things that you do as a child, that they do. They're the things that you do without ceasing. You don't mind if you get paid or not. And for the exceptions to the rule, they are what you're supposed to do for the remainder of your life. When I think about these types of passion cases as for your purpose, I think of people like singers like Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. Yeah, their passions became their purpose. And some might argue that not necessarily was it their passion after a while. And you're right, because the pain of purpose, even when you're following your passion, is going to show up. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. So with passion, like I said, as a kid, it's something that you love to do, or as an adult, it's something that you do. A lot of times you can find your passions in your hobbies. But if you've ever tried to turn your passion into the way that you make money, you will get to the point where you hate it. I'm very good at hairdressing, or was. And I'm telling my age here, for 35 years, I did people's hair cutting it and all that kind of stuff. And I guess you can tell by mine, I'm over it. But my passion became my purpose for a season, and I helped a lot of people. But it was very painful because I got to the point where I couldn't stand it. And I guess that's why my hair looks the way it does. And let me just say a side note. I've been wanting to get on YouTube for a long time. And the biggest hindrance for me was, what am I going to do with my hair? I don't want to comb it. And so now I'm just like, forget that. It is what it is. She does what she does. Deal with it. So, okay, side quest done. Let's get back. Passion. One of the things that passion is good for, it is good for helping you in your formative stages to learn what you're good at and what you like. And that's important because passion involves doing what you love and doing what you like. Purpose involves doing what you're good at. And a lot of times, purpose and passion, they're like Ghostbusters, don't cross the streams. They're kind of like competing forces. And it took me a while to understand this. And the reason why we need passion, and a lot of times people tell you to follow your passion, is because intuitively they understand the pathway to progress to be able to do this. There are a lot of people that say, "Oh, I don't know what my purpose is." And they're right. And it might be because that part of passion that was needed to plant the seed, start the foundation, and even give them boundaries and infrastructure was never met. And it's kind of unjailed. It's unfinished. And so you find that you kind of meander through life trying to figure it out because purpose requires prerequisites. And if you don't have them, it's kind of like taking you and you've never learned math, but your purpose requires calculus and advanced math. And you're like, okay, I'm here. And you fail miserably over and over because you never got those foundations. That's where passion comes in, So if you're like a lot of people also who don't have a passion, actually, that's not a bad thing. I didn't necessarily have a passion the way people said it, but I liked a lot of stuff, thus, the hair or whatever. And I got to the point where it started dawning on me that you do the stuff you like so that you can figure out what you're good at. Now, in my adolescent brain and all of that, I equated that to, I can make income because I've always been entrepreneurial. And so I would be the little kid going to different people's houses and, fixing their hair, cutting their hair, braiding their hair, all those things. I also figured out that my older sister and I, we were really good at working. And so we didn't like this part, but we would mow lawns. Yeah. And the neighbors would give us money. The very first job I had. And y'all don't come for me in the comments about child labor. But I was 9 and my sister was 12. And we got a lawnmower that our grandfather had fixed up for us. And we went out and we hustled and started cutting lawns so we could have a little extra change, and help out the family. And that's what we did. And people were just so amazed at these two little girls. Sometimes we would have to both push the lawnmower because it was not self-propelled. It was an old school lawnmower. And where I live, they had acres for a backyard. And we're out there pushing a little non-self-propelled lawnmower. But in that, I never liked it. But I started learning that you must do things with consistency, because you cut their lawn once, they're gonna be like, okay, you coming back next week? And you're like, yeah. But you get to the point where you understand that in doing what you like, what you are good at, you start to develop these skills of consistency. One of the things I always say, diligence and consistency always show up with a paycheck. But the part that people don't help you understand also is that consistency doesn't feel good. It really doesn't. It just becomes rote behavior, a habit. And it gives you benefits so that you will keep doing it. Because if it didn't and you never, it would just be hard. But where does that fit in passion versus purpose, or a passion leading to purpose? It helps those people who don't necessarily have this burning passion that they can just pluck out of their mind and say, this is my passion. When you get consistent in something, it will give you hints, clues, codes, and it will communicate to you in the direction you need to go. And so cutting those lawns, like I said, I started understanding consistency and being diligent. I started understanding communication. If a part on the lawnmower broke, we had to go around and tell people. This was, yes, before the times of internet, email, and phone. The phones that didn't have the anyway, you understand. So I developed those things. I didn't know at the time I was developing those things, but I did. I also developed an understanding of polish. And y'all, I'm sorry, but right now for these videos, I'm doing what I can with what I know. And you keep watching, because these videos are going to get better and better, because I do understand polish and I understand the process to get to polish. And that means you have to do it. And so this is me doing it, taking my own understanding and knowledge to build right in front of you for everybody to see. So you got your purpose, you got your passion. Passion is the learning ground for purpose. And then this is the thing. One of the great things about passion is highly attracted to the youth. And it's not just the youth in age, it's the youth in the newness. It's the catalyst. It's the engine that gets you going to do something. So it might not feel to me like, the passion that I had as a kid, but it fuels me because of the newness. And what ends up happening is, when you're in your passion stage, people tend to give you more grace. Now, let's talk about young folk when it comes to passion and what you want to do in life and your livelihood and all of this. I have been blessed to be able to have people come and talk with me to help them figure out these very things. And so that is why I'm giving you this information, because I know it works. And I worked with enough people to understand this process. So if I can help you shortcut it, it's going to be all the better for you, right? So when folks come to me and they say, oh, now this is a real one. Oh, I just really want to be a music producer. That's my passion. That's what I really want. And I'm like, okay. Okay, so what are you doing toward that? Well, I'm reading up on the internet and watching YouTube videos. I was like, okay, all right. And but you need to pay your rent. So what are you doing about that? And it doesn't feel good when someone is attacking your purpose. Your passion. But in another video, I talk about the difference between being nice and being kind. And my family says I can be brutal. I'm not trying to be brutal. I'm trying to be tactful and loving. But I would rather you be upset with me for a little bit, but deal with what I've suggested or giving you insights into, as opposed to trying to make you feel better. And then you run around in circles and not getting anywhere. And so with this passion, when you're young, society tends to give you more grace to let you, have your foibles and failures. And we're usually there to pick you up and be like, oh, baby, that's going to be fine. Just keep going, those types of things. But let me tell you, as you get older, your passion gets closer and closer to purpose, because the grace has lifted and people look at you like, you know better. They're not here for the foolishness. And so with passion, it requires you to have more failures and fumbles than operating in your purpose, because it is the beginning journey. It's the beginner's mind of getting you to the point where you are now certain, you are equipped, and you are ready to move into your purpose. People don't understand the power of deep learning and deep practice. There's some books that I love. Dr. Carl Newport talks about deep learning. And it's really where he talks about concentrating, prioritizing what you entertain and what you do in this process of deep learning. He even goes through this whole thing of, email management. But for the sake of what we're talking about today, the nugget in deep learning is that it has a purpose in and of itself. And I love people like me who are serial, entrepreneurs and passion seekers. We will try anything. And I'm one of those people, and I know where it comes from. In psychology, we call it a resistance to life issue, that it's kind of like you get passionate about something, you deep dive, you get to the point of obsession until you figure out the magic sauce, you figure out what it's about, and then you're on to something else. My mom used to tell me, girl, quit being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And at first, I took that as bad until I realized what the real quote was about. And just know that a jack of all trades is needful so that you can be a master over the masters, because when you become well-rounded in an area, it helps you to be more purposeful. And it's funny how they put that word full on the back of purpose, purposeful. And so for some people, you're going to need to have many passions. And if you just say, I'm gonna follow this passion, you're cutting off what your purpose requires. Let me recap this really quick, and then I'll finish up with talking about purpose and when you know you're starting to move into purpose. Okay. And thank you for staying with me on this. So with passion, passion is the beginning stage of understanding your purpose. You can have many passions in life, and it is good for you to exhaust them. Depending on your age group, you have more grace to follow a passion for the purpose of livelihood. But understand that the longer you follow these passions, they may or may not be your pathway to purpose and to livelihood. The next thing about passion, passion it must be evaluated and analyzed so that you start to understand the gifts, the lessons, the teachings, and the inputs or downloads of skills, training, knowledge that these passions are giving you. I look at people who are actors, and it's always amusing to me that as they matriculate through, whether they continue to act or not, because I do know a few local actors, that acting that they've done to follow their passion gives them a master's degree level in in how to create with purpose. I think of Sylvester Stallone, who has a budding life as a artist, a painter. Johnny Depp, same thing. How is it that they followed their passions and now they've succeeded, as the world would see it, as great actors? But then they're able to make these transitions into another creative force. It is because in following their passion, they have become aware of the transferable skills that these passions have given them to become more purposeful. And more purposeful means that you can be more profitable, because the universe abhors a void. And when you feel that void with your purpose, you get in alignment with what you uniquely can do, you get rewarded for it, because it is one of the highest forms of energy. It is one of the highest forms of meaningful energy. And we express that by ways of understanding your value to society. And you can argue if you will, but people get paid for how much they affect other people's lives. And so passions help us to figure out what I need to know, what I need to do. It's kind of like if you're going to school, it is those formative years. It is the foundational years. It is your elementary into middle school, even into high school. And then your purpose is your college years and even postgraduate. And the thing is about, let me say this about mastery. Mastery, when you come to mastery, it means that you have finally gotten to the point that you will never know as much as you need to. And to master something is to be fully committed to ever continuing to learn. So that's what I want to say about passion. Now about purpose. So purpose, as passion is for the young, purpose is for the experienced. Now you notice I didn't say mature or elderly, because that has nothing to do with it. Purpose, you can hit your purpose as a young person, but I'll be willing to bet you when you talk to those people, they'll say things like, oh, I've been doing this since I was 2, and they're 22. They've got 20 years of passion that propels them into purpose. So don't get that confused. Purpose is for the experienced, and it is for the experienced because it is a curriculum that requires you to have specialized training that only you can get. And so that is another reason why you have a lot of passions that will come into your life, or even temporary obsessions, because somewhere in that there is a transferable skill that you must get so that you can not only fulfill your passion, but we be willing to do it, because purpose is painful. As I said before, passion is doing what you like, but purpose is doing what you're good at, what you're made for, and what is required of you. And you can tell if you hit the end of your passion. Like, this is a litmus test to know if this is passion or if this is purpose. You can tell when you've hit the limit of your passion, because you get sick of it, and no matter how you try to keep doing it, you can't go on. And that is the universe's loving way of telling you, scoot on. It's time for you to do the things that you have become good at, that you are able to do perpetually. No matter what you try, you just get better and better at it. It becomes second nature to you. People gravitate to you. And when you think about purpose, the reason why purpose is so like mist or smoke, and you can't grab it, is 9 times out of 10, you have not either done enough for purpose to reveal itself to you, because it doesn't want to break you with its enormity. It doesn't want to shy you away from it with how advanced it is, if it knows that you're not ready for it. And so understanding purpose also comes with a certain amount of consistency, diligence, confidence, all of those things, that focus that we must build. Because if you don't, and say for instance, like I said, the other example about the calculus class when you've never understood math, Think about how painful that is to know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. But in every way, you're shown a mirror to say you're not ready. That's enough for a mental break. That's enough for people to be like, why am I here? You know? Another thing about purpose. Purpose requires that you understand how to prioritize. I'm going to borrow something from this wonderful young man. I've never met him, maybe one day, Alex Ramosi. And he talks about strategy in terms of business. He talks about strategy and how strategy helps you to prioritize. And I don't know if he got this from the psychology world, but when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's what we use, to help people prioritize and understand. So the way he says it is if you are feeling sad. Now, we say depressed in the counseling and therapy world, but he says sad. So I'm going to say sad. So baby, if you are sad about your prospects, your future, or what you do, he says that is because you do not have options. Now, in the therapy world, we say it means that you are depressed because you cannot see your future because you are preoccupied with your past, whether it be rejection or failure or the false lies you tell yourself about your life to this point. And so I'm telling you what he says, and I am telling you, from the therapy world, how we would look at this. Okay. So if you are sad and you cannot see options, that means that you need to go through a process to figure out how to go forward. Okay. He says, if you are anxious, and we say the same thing, anxiety, that means that you have too many options and you are confused as to where to go from here. Now, in the therapy world, we say that you are suffering from living out of sync. You are living in the future, and your future is full of fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of death. And so that's how he said it. And he said, you also need to use strategy to pick the best one of your options. So with that being said, and like I said, I'm looking at my notes, for purpose, it requires you to prioritize, because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to first, and I wrote down 3 things to help you with this purpose, especially if you feel like you're in the point where it's time for you to activate your purpose. The first thing you're going to do, now these are my notes. I just told you that little bit about Alex from his business side, but the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to look at what is the biggest hindrance, what is the biggest heaviness, or what is the biggest fear stopping you from taking action, not stopping you from thinking about it, stopping you from taking action. Because purpose will require that you prioritize, and purpose is squirrely. It will not just give you the full answer. It will not say, ha, here's your purpose and this is what you do. It will require you to go fearlessly into that darkness. And the way you do that is to identify those areas. If you figure out, and I'm just going to give you a cheat code here, 9 times out of 10, if you're thinking that you can't move forward because of something tangible, like you don't have the money, you don't have the education, you don't have the network, you don't live in the right place, you don't have the venture capital money that you want, that's not it. 9 times out of 10, your hindrances and those things that are keeping you from moving forward and taking action are going to live in the areas of the things I just said. Either you're confused because you have too many options, or you're sad because you can't see any options. And all of this stuff, this material stuff, is simply excuses because you can't necessarily see that this is your issue. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to figure out what is causing you hindrance. Is it because there's so many things you want to do? Is it because the things you want to do are too big for just you? You need help. Or I don't know what I want to do. Everybody around me knows what they want to do. Why can't I know what I want to do? Now that we've had this conversation, you know. So the next thing is you're going to take that knowledge of whether you have too many options or no options. And based on that, if you have no options, you feel sad, because we don't want to use the depression word because he said sad and that seems to resonate with people. So we're going to say sad. Okay. So you can have sad or anxious, about the future. And the next thing, step number 2, is you're going to make yourself effective and efficient by decreasing if you are in anxiety, you're going to decrease the fear of the future. If you are sad, you're going to forgive yourself and exercise releasing regret, rejection, and anything that is having you tied to the past. You are not your past. We're only really what we are right now, because that's why they call it a present. The past is gone and the future never comes. All you have is the present. So this is who you are today, and you can change it right now with the mind flip. I am that I am. Check out that video that I did. And if anybody knows how to put the cards on the videos, let me know, because I need to figure that out. But focus. All right. And then this is the next thing. In the now, I want you to do this exercise. I'm telling you, this exercise has helped me. And I continuously come to it because it's one of the easiest and fastest I know. Now, of course, I want you to write this out in your hand, because typing it out is not as deeply connected to who you are in your unconscious as well as your conscious. So write it out. And I want you to do an inventory whether you are sad or anxious about what you're supposed to do for your purpose. I want you to figure out by writing down what you're doing. Is it making you faster? Is it making you more effective and efficient? And is it getting you or forming a straighter path to your desired outcome? Now, you notice I didn't say purpose because your desired outcome can simply be, what do I do next? Yeah, what do I do next? And there's a formula for that. And it's not a formula. Well, it is. Okay. And the formula is input increases output and output increases outcome. I'm going to say that again. Input increases output and output increases outcome. You notice I didn't say goals. I didn't do any of that because a goal is just a general direction. When you can start thinking in input, what am I doing? Output, what is the result? Outcome, how are these results stacking up to get me to what I want to do or what I want to solve? That takes away a lot of that, stuff out there where you're like, I want to be the president of this. I want to own my own island. Well, that might be great, but let's start with in the now. What actions am I doing that get me closer to or further back? What things am I doing? What things am I thinking? Thinking, when you're thinking, you're being it. And I talked a little bit about that in other previous videos. You must be to do, to have. What am I thinking? What am I doing so that I can have what I want? Don't just focus on what I'm doing. You have to look at what's driving you. This is the engine. This is the catalyst. So make sure you cover that too. And thank you for sticking with me. I wanted to not be rushed and just take my time to help you with this, because you could go to therapy and spend tens of thousands of dollars in talk therapy to try to figure this out. Or you can take this and watch it over and over as many times as you need to so that you can understand where you should have passions, where you should have purpose. And another thing about this, doing step number 2, a lot of times will help you to identify if this season of this purpose has moved. I did hair, if you will, way too long. I mean, I was working and all of that, but I was allowing people to gas me up and say, oh, you have a real gift for this. Oh, my hair loves you and all this kind of stuff. And I did it for way longer than I probably should have, because I didn't understand that you can have purpose for a season and a reason, but it does not mean that that is the purpose that you must be stuck in for the rest of your life. And I feel right now that I said this to someone and you just got this click of understanding that you can let it go. Okay. 3, and then we'll land this plane. All right. 3, you want to become successful by understanding you are not what you do. That is important because that helps you to realign. And when you realign, you are, and I don't want to use the word simply because it's not a simple thing. When you realign, you start to inherently commit and accept that you are what you are. I talk about I am statements and how powerful they are. You are what you are. And for me, I'm always able to say I am, that I am, and I am this and I am that. But I have found in working with a lot of people that I am statements don't naturally come to everyone. And so affirmations and askformations have become a really big thing to help people. Now, you may know what an askformation is, and you may know what an affirmation is, and for those who don't, I'm going to just quickly say that in step number 3, become successful by understanding you are not what you do. That's the first part. If you're having problems with my I am this, because it's really a declarative statement. It feels like it has a heft and a finality to it. And some people just can't commit to that. You can do askformations. Now, affirmations became really popular before askformations. And most people are familiar with affirmations, because affirmations are those declarative statements. They are that I am statement. And some people are not good at those. But everybody can benefit from including askformations into this so that you can become more aware of how to separate what you do from who you are. An askformation looks, okay, let me do an affirmation first. An affirmation, one of the big ones I'm talking about from, is it Leclaw? Something like that. Anyway, I'm murdering his name. I'll try to do him justice by maybe putting it up here. But this famous affirmation, every day in every way, I am getting better and better. Okay. That's a declarative statement. Every day in every way, I am getting better and better. And he taught people, and this was like around the turn of the century, 1800s to 1900s, no, early 1900s. And people were getting so many breakthroughs by using affirmations that it became a thing where you turn them into mantras. And his recipe was, before you go to sleep, when you're laying in bed, he would even tell people to get these little beads and put 20 of them on there, kind of like borrowing from the Vedic traditions and other Middle Eastern and Southeastern traditions, where he wanted you to say this for 20 times before you went to sleep, and then we get up 20 times. And so that was the way people did things. But we have now learned that certain people that's not their jam, and it's self-defeating, and it's almost a waste of time for them. So the same thing, meaning you do an askformation, you ask why. Why is it that every day and every way I'm getting better and better? And that will help you as well. So instead of making it a declarative, you ask, why is it? And when you ask, it's not where you're clueless, it's where you're confirming. Why is it that every day in every way I'm getting better and better? Watch out there now. That helps you. Now, the second part of step number 3, once you sever that you are not what you do, you will now understand that the proper alignment is I am, and I do out of who I am so that I can have. You understand that to become successful, you are to do what it is you're good at and not necessarily what you like. I have this written down. I'm gonna go on and say it. Don't come at me. But have you noticed there are a lot of people with a passion for singing and they are not good at it? But that's what they want to do in their life. This right here, step number 3. This for y'all. Sorry, this is to help you, because your purpose is not necessarily what you like to do. It is what you're good at. And so I have kept you. Thank you so much for making it to this point. And I really am, my heart goes out to all of us, because I was like, why am I going to look these people in their face? I'm looking at you and tell the truth, but I have to. That purpose is painful. Purpose. Do you know what it feels like to do something that you like, I could really not, but I know that I get confirmation this is what I'm supposed to be doing, A lot of introverts or ambiverts like me, we would just rather be in our little cubby holes doing stuff that's not front facing. But lo and behold, we keep getting the confirmation that, yeah, we have something to give to society and we have to get out there and do it. People who are extroverts, they love being around people. Sometimes they're told, their purpose is do the background work. You are a powerful connector. Connect people, make things happen. Use that extroverted personality because you are a master at quickly gaining favor with people, but you're going to do it one-on-one. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the shine for it. That's purpose of doing what you're good at and not necessarily what you want or like to be doing. And so be okay with this and understand that passion is a tool to help you get ready for your purpose, because purpose requires that you prioritize. It also requires that you have strong endurance and tolerance for emotional pain, sometimes physical pain. What if your purpose is to labor, have labor intensive things that you do? You're going to have to be experienced enough to endure, to be diligent, to have confidence and consistency and quality. Right? So guess what? Yeah, my time is up. I thank you for yours. This is Michelle, your big sis with Brilliant Quest. Bye.